This podcast is a production of the Salem Podcast Network. For more podcasts like this from courageous voices of conservative reason, visit salempodcastnetwork.com.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt. Welcome to the Rundown, which consists of the pre-rundown, the rundown, and the post-rundown, but all of it brought to you by ReliefFactor.com. $19.95 gets you started on ReliefFactor.com. I talk about it 3 times in my daily show. At the bottom of the first hour when I take it, and then in hours 2 and 3 when I remind you to take it, depending on when your commute begins, because ReliefFactor.com works. It's the only supplement I've taken in 30 years of broadcasting. I've declined every other opportunity to take a supplement, and I'll tell you why. Because ReliefFactor.com actually works. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, omega. Temporary relief for the relief of minor aches and pains. Temporary support for the relief of minor aches and pains. And you can't do better than that 3-week starter pack, $19.95. With that in mind, let's get to the pre-rundown. Welcome to the pre-show of the pre-show. Now, you can get the post-show at the after show, which, if that's confusing, just go to theuniverse.com and subscribe. Rat Rasmussen of Solaire Infrared Grills, besthotgrills.com, was telling me he listens to the after show every day.
Yes, he does.
And is amused by Dwayne. I don't get it, but he's amused by Red is very amused by you. Do you have a Best Hot Grill planned for the backyard, that one that you're redoing?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
You don't know how to grill anything. You want me to come over and build that for you?
No, because I actually want to be able to have a backyard and not have it be a fireball.
Well, besthotgrill.com. You should call him up. He is not the sponsor of the after show, but he listens to you every single day. I needed to talk to you about, we won't get this until the very end of the rundown. There is a story in the Wall Street Journal today about Wim Hof.
Okay.
Know who Wim Hof is?
Not a clue.
I'm saying Wim Hof. It might be Wim Hof. Wimhof. It might be Wim Hof.
Okay.
He is. He's the newest self-help guru. Jack Dorsey at Twitter follows him.
Oh, are you talking about this Dutch ice guy?
The Dutch ice guy.
The Iceman?
His techniques combine hypoxic breathing with ice bath and cold showers, have been adopted by a cult following of extreme athletes and tech entrepreneurs. Scientists are studying his almost superhuman ability to eliminate fear and control his immune response. So I know you are a follower of his and that you're doing the ice bath thing. I know that. But I'm just wondering, did you know he's famous now?
No. Why? What did he do to make himself famous?
Well, I don't really know other than sitting in cold baths. And he has a method now, and he's become a guru. So I began to make a list of gurus. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've interviewed quite a few gurus. Ariana Huffington, Marianne Williamson. You remember James Redfield, the Celestine Prophecy?
Yeah.
Iron John, Tony Robbins. What is it about? Is it like every 5 years we get a guru?
Yeah, pretty much. That's just kind of a cultural thing. As the culture kind of turns away from faith, they look for somebody to, be the next it.
Okay,
and
so I found a website, the top 39 personal development gurus, influencers, and
YouTube's responsible for a lot of that too.
Yes, and I ran down their names: Gary Vaynerchuk, Matt D'Avella, Mark Manson, etc. I tweeted it out. People can go to HughHewitt.com or Hugh Hewitt on Twitter and find them. But you're not on here. Generalissimo's not on here, and you're kind of a guru.
As a guru? No.
The Tribbles follow you. Like the Tribbles are you're the Pied Piper of those poor people.
Sure, you can refer to me as a guru all you want. That's not the reality. No.
That's the after show's a cult.
No, the after show is everything they want the Hugh Hewitt show to be.
It's a cult.
It's not a cult.
It's a cult. And you're going to take them all down to some spaceship in San Diego someday, or a ranch outside of Waco.
I'm going to do a Hail Bop comment on them.
You're going to do something. Someday they're going to say, now, look, there are thousands of people who listen to the after show because it's kind of funny. And it's enjoyable. It's 8 p.m. in the West.
You know what I find weird about it? You know what I find weird about it? Is they actually want me to play the video of me eulogizing my mom over the weekend.
Well, you should.
That's weird to me.
Well, it's a culty kind of thing. You and Wim together. Look, we gotta get the show started, but I'm just telling people the after show is available at the Universe. Stay tuned. The rundown is straight ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this. There has never been a more important time to protect your digital rights. That's why I and thousands of my patriotic listeners choose to secure our online data by using ExpressVPN. Do you believe that a VPN isn't for you because you can use the internet just fine without one? Anytime you go online, my friends, your internet service provider can see every site you are visiting. You think that VPNs are complex and only for tech experts? No, they're not. Trust me. With ExpressVPN, you launch the app, tap one button to protect yourself, and it's done. It's that simple. I trust ExpressVPN to protect my online data because they're rated #1 by CNET and Wired, and they stand for my values. So now's the time for you to take a stance. Take back your privacy at expressvpn.com/Hewitt. You get 3 extra months on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/Hewitt to get 3 extra months free. Visit expressvpn.com/Hewitt right now. Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings, everybody. Hugh Hewitt. Terrible news out of Boulder, Colorado. 10 people gunned down inside of the King Soopers supermarket yesterday afternoon, including police officer Eric Talley, first policeman to respond. No additional details are available. The suspect is alive, and no details on the killer available. If that comes through in the course of the show, I will update you about that. In Germany, the lockdown has been extended to April the 18th, Angela Merkel saying that we are basically in a new pandemic. Even as the United States sees normalcy returning, Germany and much of the other areas of the EU, which screwed around and did not immediately authorize the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine or prepare as Israel did for importation of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, they got lost in the bureaucracy of Brussels and tried to punish the UK for leaving, and the people who are being punished are, in fact, the members of the EU states, the people of Europe, screwed over by a bureaucratic government that doesn't know how to respond. Merkel is going to leave her endless tenure in office a complete and shattered failure. In Great Britain, Boris Johnson, who led the United Kingdom out of the EU and is leading them in a robust response against the COVID after nearly dying of it himself, has announced that retirement home staff are either going to have the vaccination or they're going to be fired. I 100% agree with that. People can make a personal choice to live dangerously without the vaccine, and it is very dangerous. It's not a very smart choice. It's a dumb choice, actually, not to get vaccinated. Really dumb. But it's your choice. It's like, swimming 100 yards out to sea in a riptide. You might get back to ground. That's fine. Might be a little bit thrilling, but you don't have a right to take somebody with you. And if you're working in a retirement home, those people do not have, or a nursing care facility, those people don't have a choice to be there. And you don't have a choice. Like in Great Britain, and I hope it's adopted by the states, as a matter of licensure, you ought not to be allowed. The border is completely out of control. Amid surge, according to NBC News, border agents in Rio Grande are now releasing migrants without court dates. Thousands of illegal immigrants are being released without court dates. What does that mean? That means they're being released. Welcome to America. Have a nice life. That's what it means. Eventually they might get recaptured by ICE in a raid somewhere and then deported. Some of them will be deported after violent crime, but they've given up. Why have they given up? They're overwhelmed by children. There are new pictures released by Henry Cuellar, Democrat of Texas, of one of the Biden jails for kids. And the Donna facility they don't have bars, they have plastic zippers, so you're zipped in. Can't imagine it's good for the kids. Can't imagine it's good for anyone. They repealed all the Trump policies, and now they have thousands of kids in tents, plastic tents inside of buildings. A disaster. Meanwhile, Biden sent top U.S. officials to visit Mexico and Guatemala to beg for help. All the agreements were in place when Trump left. Washington Post, Biden team searching for new ways to slow border surge. They might want to finish the wall. It might occur to them. Meanwhile, they're also drawing up plans to spend $3 trillion in new spending on the economy, according to the New York Times' Jim Tankersley. They just spent $4 trillion after last year's. They just spent $2 trillion after last year's $4 trillion. So they want to spend $10 trillion in the space of a year and a half. It will destroy the economy. It will ignite inflation beyond anything you've ever imagined. Biden's advisors plan to recommend the effort be broken into pieces by Congress tackling infrastructure before turning to a second package that would include more people-focused proposals like free community college, universal pre-kindergarten, and a national paid leave program. The first phase will include $1 trillion in spending on the construction of roads, bridges, rail lines, ports, electric vehicle charging stations, and improvements in the electric grid. What's the $2 trillion for? What I know that 10% of it was for COVID, for vaccines and schools. There are trillions of dollars given away to state and local governments already. Why don't they use it for the infrastructure? Most important story of the day, U.S. and its allies have sanctioned China over the genocide of the Uyghurs in a collective action. Now, I had Josh Rogan on yesterday. His brand new book, Chaos Under Heaven, is a must-read. The best thing you can do to help stop the genocide of the Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities in Xinjiang province is to buy and get smart about the Chinese Communist Party and its ruthlessness. From the Wall Street Journal, the U.S., Canada, and allies in Europe leveled sanctions against Chinese officials over the repression of mainly Muslim Uyghurs in a coordinated blacklisting that is part of the Biden administration's efforts to forward a coalition against Beijing. The sanctions came from the U.S., Canada, and UK. They were supported by Australia and New Zealand. And China dismissed the allegations and immediately retaliated by blacklisting 10 European lawmakers as well as several think tanks and academics, prohibiting them from business with or travel to China. Boo-hoo. Separately, Mr. Blinken and the foreign ministers of Canada and the United Kingdom said in a statement that the evidence of China's abuses in Xinjiang is overwhelming. It cited satellite imagery, Chinese government documents, eyewitness accounts. The foreign ministers of Australia and New Zealand then issued a separate statement in support of the sanctions. Everybody knows they're killing off the Uyghurs. They're doing so in 100 different ways. They tried to do so quietly, but it's happening. It's a genocide. It's like the Jews in Germany in the early 30s. The only exception to the Goodwin's Law, never bring up the Nazis or Hitler, is actually when people are acting like the Nazis and Hitler. And the Chinese Communist Party is doing what Joe Stalin did with his Gulag, and he's doing what Hitler did with his Gulag, murdering an entire ethnic group, wiping them out. At the same time, John Kerry's announced he's holding a meeting with the Chinese on climate change. Now, this does not compute. Wall Street Journal, U.S.-China climate envoys to meet despite frosty Alaska talks. That should be John Kerry to meet with Chinese counterpart despite genocide of Uyghurs. John Kerry doesn't care. John Kerry doesn't care about the Uyghurs. Doesn't care about Hong Kong. Doesn't care about tech theft. Doesn't care about influence operations by China in the United States. Obviously has not read Josh Rogan's book. He wants to talk about climate change. Now, I had a great conversation with John Kerry. I'm the only person in America to have read his memoir. Really. I read every page. I mean, that's not counting his publisher, his editor, although I doubt his editor read every page because it does not appear to have been edited. And we had a fine conversation. But that was before we knew there was a genocide in China and before they cracked down on Hong Kong. Climate change is, he says, an existential threat. Perhaps it is. I think we'll adapt. But you know what's an existential threat? the genocide of the Uyghurs is an existential threat to the Uyghurs. So, John Kerry, really unbelievable. Saudi Arabia has a new ceasefire deal. It's been rejected by the Houthis. The United Kingdom has a new Defense Department budget that is transferring over to all new weaponry. Supreme Court had a very interesting case yesterday on property rights. Keep your fingers crossed. Something big might happen there. Dwayne's very bummed out because Ellen DeGeneres has lost 1 million viewers. Dwayne's favorite show, he came in this morning and said, can we put in a plug for Ellen DeGeneres? She's lost 1 million viewers because she's mean. Dwayne has a list of shows. He likes Dr. Phil, Live with Kelly and Ryan, Maury Povich, Kelly Clarkson, Rachel Ray, Tamron Helen, Jerry Springer's former security guard Steve Wilkos. But most of all, Dwayne likes Ellen. And he wants Ellen back. And I can't help her. Dwayne will have to do without. Microsoft is reopening its office. When they say come back, don't miss it. Come right back here to the Hugh Hewitt Show. The fact is, the internet never forgets. There has never been a more important time to protect your internet activity, your digital data. That's why I urge you to get ExpressVPN. Everything you search for, watch, or click online can be tracked back to you by big tech companies, and they do it. They match your activity to your true identity using your device's unique IP address. That's why you need to switch, and I switched to ExpressVPN. On your computer, on your phone, every IP address is masked by a secure VPN server, which makes it harder for websites to identify me. Plus, you can use ExpressVPN on up to 5 devices simultaneously. That's why they're rated the #1 VPN by CNET and Wired. So stop handing over your data to big tech companies. Go with the VPN I trust for online protection. Visit expressvpn.com/Hewitt to get 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/Hewitt to get 3 extra months for free. Go to expressvpn.com/Hewitt right now to learn more.
We were more than just a slice of American pie.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I'm so glad you're listening. Israel is voting. As we speak, polls are open in the Jewish state. They will be open until, I believe, 1 p.m. East Coast time, 10 in the West. That will be 7 p.m. in Israel. They're 6 hours ahead of our East Coast. It's close. Movement towards Likud in the last few days, but every single time I've read an early Israeli election story, it's been wrong. This is their 4th election in 2 years. So I'm going to wait until tomorrow morning to tell you what's going on. But it's very important. It would be good to get some stability there and get either a pro-Netanyahu or an anti-Netanyahu coalition and let them have a government for 5 years. Just a real government. It's like the Italians after the war. Every 3 months they threw somebody out. And that was entertaining because basically we were rebuilding Italy anyway. But now Israel has got Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas to deal with. They've got a new alliance with a number of the Sunni states. Could be a war in the next, Biden means weakness in anti-Israel policies out of the White House. Jake Sullivan may be able to moderate that against the Susan Rice clique, which is anti-Israel. The old Obama people are so anti-Israel. They really could use Netanyahu, in my opinion, but I'm not an Israeli. I don't vote. We'll see what happens there. I want to finish the rundown from earlier, and this, if you listen to the rundown, which is available on iTunes and Spotify, I do 2 podcasts. Every day I do the rundown, which is the heavy news jumbo offense, followed by the interview, which is a long-form interview yesterday with Josh Rogan and Tony Fauci. Later this week, I'll do more. Occasionally, I'll throw in one of the greatest hits from 30 years of broadcasting. But the after show is different from all of that. The after show is only available if you subscribe to the Universe. The Universe is the efficient way to listen to the Hugh Hewitt Show. I was talking to Rhett Rasmussen about it. Rhett runs besthotgrill.com, and he knows it's 38 minutes. And so he listens to the entire show, the 3-hour show, in under 2 hours. And he'll sometimes blow through the parts where Dwayne is talking. He told me that. He just zips through that because he gets enough of Dwayne in the after show, which reminded me to tell you about the after show. That's only available. It's 8 p.m. in the West, 5 p.m. in the East, and it will be especially important.
Other way around, 8 p.m. in the East, 5 p.m. in the West.
That was just to see if you were awake. That was a test. I'm glad to see you're awake. 5 p.m. in the East, 8 p.m. in the West. You have to subscribe to it.
No, the other way around. 8 p.m.
See,
in the
I wanted to
East,
double check. You didn't
5
leave
p.m.
there either.
In the West.
That's very, very good. Dwayne has been awake twice. That's really remarkable. He took yesterday off, so he's really in shape.
Are you having like a mini stroke on air?
I want to talk about Wim Hof, the latest of Dwayne's. He came in today and said, you got to talk about Wim Hof. He got written up in the Wall Street Journal. Wim Hof is the guy. He's the ice guy. And I said, what? And Dwayne handed me the health and wellness section of the Wall Street Journal that begins, sitting in a barrel chest high in ice cubes seems more like torture than a birthday treat. But not for Wim Hof, the eccentric Dutchman who celebrated his 61st birthday last year by spending 61 minutes in ice, has gone from stuntman caricature to wellness guru during the pandemic. His techniques combining hypoxic breathing with ice bath and cold showers have been adopted by a cult following of extreme athletes and tech entrepreneurs. Scientists are studying his almost superhuman ability to eliminate fear and control his immune response. Now a lot of regular people are taking his advice. One of those regular people is not so regular. It's Jack Dorsey, who scares me. Was Jack a guest on this show once, Dwayne?
No.
Who was the Twitter person who originally came on? Way back when I was an early adapter.
I don't remember the name. It was not Jack. No,
okay.
We have not had Jack on.
Jack is a big believer in sitting in ice. Jack scares me, honestly. Every time I see a picture of him, I said, that company, I'm not going to own stock in that ever. Alyssa Epple, a professor in psychiatry at the University of Chicago, says Mr. Hoff was exactly what she was looking for. She had been searching for natural ways to cause short, intermittent bouts of acute stress. She should talk to Dwayne. Because they are believed to build a kind of stress resilience that might inoculate against chronic stress. We're curious about the method. So I began to make a list of gurus. Now, I've been in broadcast for 30 years. I interviewed James Redfield of the Celestine Prophecy back when I worked for PBS LA affiliate KCET. I interviewed the guy who wrote Iron John, Arianna Huffington, Marianne Williamson, Tony Robbins, you name it. They blow through interview shows. Now, I don't do them on the air here. I think I've had Arianna once in 30 years. When her husband, at the time, Mike Huffington, was running for Senate, I had Arianna on a lot. And she's fine. She's a pal. But look, self-help. I wrote a book called The Happiest Life, which is basically meditations on the Christian way of life. It's not a self-help book.
So you're more of a guru than I am.
No, it's just this basic Christianity 101. And that's different. I wrote In But Not Of, which is a guide for young people, not guru stuff, just basically regurgitating, don't get a tattoo, work hard, show up on time, what Dana Perino did in her new book. But Dwayne is now into sitting into ice cubes. Just don't bring it into the studio.
Do you remember the snowmobile run that we did on Lake Minnetonka?
That's why I almost didn't survive, because you were off leaving me in the middle of nowhere.
I've done cold. I can check that off the list. I don't need to do cold again.
Well, get rid of the ice bath in there. That's for athletes. Now, I want to go back to the border. Ted Cruz in the Senate tunnel yesterday summed up the Biden policy on the border, cut number one.
The administration seems to be projecting they have a plan. They just need time to get it in place. How familiar are you with what that plan is? Are you confident that it's being executed?
By all evidence, the administration's plan is effectively open borders. If you look at what is happening on the southern border, it is the direct consequence of policy decisions made by the Biden administration. The instant Joe Biden got into office, he halted construction on the wall. He reinstated catch and release, the failed policy where illegal immigrants are detained and then they're released and asked to come to a court date in the future. And unfortunately, we know a very large number of them never show up at the court date. And most inexplicably, he ended the Remain in Mexico policy, you know, a great foreign policy victory, an immigration victory that the Trump administration had achieved, was negotiating with the nation of Mexico so that Central American immigrants who had crossed illegally through Mexico and were seeking asylum here would remain in Mexico while their cases were processed. The Biden administration threw away that international agreement They're now releasing illegal immigrants in the United States, a great many of them in Texas. And I'll tell you, in Harlingen, Texas, the illegal immigrants being released are testing positive for COVID at a rate 7 times higher than the U.S. population. It is indefensible.
It is indefensible. And President Trump, former President Trump, called Fox News yesterday with Harris Faulkner and added his 2 cents on the border cut number 6.
Well, first of all, I mean, the only problem with giving you this answer is you don't have enough time because, you need about 2 hours to explain what we've done. What we did is incredible. But, in a nutshell, I do want to start off by saying that they built the cages. They built cages for children. We didn't build them. They built them. And a famous picture appeared about the cages that were built. And then, fortunately, somebody remembered. And fortunately, we have guys like Morgan and Tom. How good. I mean, we have such professionals, Tom Homan. We have such great professionals. I watch them on your show. They really know their business, and they're not involved in this. They have people that have no idea. But they built cages in 2014, but that was during the Obama administration, and they blamed them on us. We didn't build the cages. They did. Very sad, when they had a picture in the New York Times of children in cages, and it turned out that it was them, and the newspapers didn't want to do retractions, even though now everybody knows that's the fact. But as far as other countries are concerned, so we had Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and others. We were paying those 3 countries approximately $500 million a year. Who knows what they were doing with the money? You can imagine. They were supposed to use that money for economic development, keep people there. It all sounds good, but it wasn't being used for that. And people were flowing in, and they wouldn't take MS-13 gang members back. They wouldn't take anybody back for Obama. They wouldn't do it. They said, nope, don't ever land your plane here. Don't ever bring your buses here. Don't ever send a boat. Nothing. We won't take them back. Turn around. They were turning our people around. They were treating us like amateurs, which is what they were. And so I said, well, they was doing that at the beginning of mine, too. I said, so how much money do we pay these countries? $500 million. I said, stop payment. As soon as I stopped payment, all of a sudden they said, we would welcome our MS-13 gang members back into our country. We would welcome. Anyway, I got along very well with those 3 countries and really well with Mexico. The president of Mexico is a friend of mine. He's a great guy.
Excuse me. Now, I should tell you, by the way, election turnout is very high in Israel. 14.8% of the vote as of 10 a.m. That's higher than in the previous vote. Maybe they'll break the deadlock. Benjamin Netanyahu is hailing a festival of democracy. He seems upbeat this morning. Jake Sullivan, who is the serious person in Team Biden, Tony Blinken pretty serious, Jake Sullivan pretty serious. We hope they run things with President Biden. Jake Sullivan was on MSNBC with Andrea Mitchell yesterday talking about Putin, cut number 7.
No, President Biden was asked a direct question. He gave a direct answer. That's how he has operated for 40-plus years in public service, and it's how he'll continue to operate as president. We believe that we're going to have tough days with Russia because there are issues on which we profoundly disagree and actions that we need to respond to forcefully. But we also believe that we can work with Russia on key issues.
That's exactly what Trump said. I hope they do that. I believe the most important thing to happen today is that the United States, Great Britain, and Canada sanction China over the massacre of the Uyghurs that is occurring in Xinjiang. And I talked about it with Josh Rogan yesterday. If you didn't hear me, that interview is posted at hughhewitt.com. You should go out and buy his book, Chaos Under Heaven. It's the most important, timeliest book on the Chinese Communist Party genocide, the repression in Hong Kong, the espionage in the United States, the tech war. It is the book. You can't be literate in all matters China-U.S. unless you are up to date. To be up to date without a security clearance means you've got to read the person who does the best reporting on those who have a security clearance. I am hopeful that Jack Sullivan is in the tradition of Robert O'Brien and Matt Pottinger at the NSC. They work closely together on the transition. We have to be tough on the Chinese Communist Party.